Okay, hello everybody. I'm here with Alex, and we are going to review WrestleMania 12. This is the first part of the WrestleMania review series. I want to review a lot of WrestleManias this year for some reason, so this is how we're going to do it. So WrestleMania 12, this took place back in 1996, Anaheim, California, March 31st, 1996, headlined by Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, the Iron Man match. So WrestleMania 12, would you consider this one of the better WrestleManias? I think it definitely is.
I think for his time, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's for his time, absolutely. I think that it was a great pay-per-view. You got to see some younger guys coming in, like Steve Austin and Savio Vega, and you got to see some interesting things like Diesel versus the Undertaker. Some interesting matchups. I wouldn't say it was the best, or even in my top five WrestleManias. Or if it is in my top five, it would be number 4 or 5, and that's because of the Iron Man match, which was such a great match, you know. But as a whole, I think we saw better WrestleManias later on in the early 2000s. But still, an absolutely great pay-per-view, and it's one that I'm happy to review.
Well, in my opinion, this has the WrestleMania undercard is actually okay, decent compared to a lot of the previous WrestleMania undercards, like WrestleMania 4's, which was unwatchable, and WrestleMania 2. So yeah, the overall show is actually a good show compared to previous WrestleManias, but the undercard really doesn't hold up. I would say it's like an okay undercard, but this, in my opinion, this is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, and Shawn Michaels' greatest match of all time. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people probably disagree with me, but so let's just break down the card. First match, we had Camp Cornette taking on Yokozuna, Ahmed Johnson, and Jake Roberts. Camp Cornette was, who was it, Owen Hart?
It was Owen Hart, British Bulldog, and I believe Vader.
Oh, great. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Thank you, because they're not even in the match listing here.
96 was my year.
Yeah, I mean, what do you remember about this match? I can't remember much about it.
This match, there wasn't a whole lot of pretty things to it. Yokozuna was very heavy, he was reaching to the end of his career. Jake Roberts was very heavy, out of shape, and he was reaching the end of his stint with the WWE.
Ahmed Johnson was hot, though, at the time, right?
Right. Ahmed Johnson was hot, and but I just think that you on the other side of the net, you had Vader, you had Bulldog, you had Owen, three guys who were probably in their prime at the time, especially Owen and Bulldog. And Vader, he was huge. Eventually, he would have a feud with Shawn Michaels later on that year. So this was a good opportunity for you to see guys like Bulldog and Vader who would eventually compete for the title later on, but not a memorable match in itself.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Vader and Bulldog both challenged Shawn Michaels later in here. I can't remember who won this match, but yeah, I mean, it was fun though. I remember this being like fun, but it wasn't amazing. So I'll just say that. All right. So next match we have the very entertaining Hollywood backlot brawl between Roddy Piper and Goldust. Entertaining, right? I thought it was fun. They kind of played off the O.J. Simpson thing with the white minivan or whatever it was,
Yeah,
the Bronco.
right. That the
Yeah.
White Bronco. That was still going on. What was interesting about this was, it went on throughout most of the pay-per-view. You would see it started at one point in the paper of the WrestleMania, and then they showed you the tape of the footage. And at the time, it was entertaining, because they don't do stuff like that very often. Kind of like a reality TV, true TV type of thing, like a police chase, that sort of thing. And very comical. Yeah, very entertaining. And Piper was still in good shape, and he and Goldust kind of. I mean, I don't know why he kissed him on the lips there, but if you haven't seen this match, it's definitely one you don't want to watch with your 7-year-old little brother or sister.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, Piper. Anything Piper does is at least somewhat entertaining. But I think this is probably like the last thing that Piper did before he went to WCW. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. It was just not really a match. It was more of a segment slash brawl. All right, next up, let's move on to Steve Austin versus Savio Vega. Austin was accompanied by the Million Dollar Man, I believe. I believe he was the $1 Million champion. Austin Savio Vega. I mean, uh, my first impression of Steve Austin was, I never really thought he was going to be anything big. I just kind of saw him as this technical wrestler type of heel. I didn't really know he had much of a personality at the time. This is kind of a slow, generic match with Austin just playing the great heel, just picking apart Savio Vega's body parts, and that's pretty much what it was. I mean, I wasn't that big of a fan of this match. This is probably the highlight of the undercard, but still, I wouldn't say it was one of Austin's better matches. I mean, what do you think?
Not a great match. This was a setup match for what they had later that actually the next month they had the strap match. This was more of a setup match, and I think people always hate it when they have setup matches at WrestleManias. But they do it actually quite often. They'll have setup matches at WrestleManias to go into Backlash or whatever the next pay-per-view is. But if you look, you mentioned, you didn't think Steve Austin was going to be that big. If you look back,
I didn't.
if you look back and you look at the look in his eyes, the expression in his face during that match, and as he walked back after he hit Savio with the $1 million title, the look in his eyes, he was just such a good heel. There was something badass about him, and he puts his hand in the air and he puts up a #1. That was his first WrestleMania.
Right, yeah.
So
No, you could definitely see it in his eyes. Like, he definitely, this was the start of something big. I don't, like, when I was a kid watching it, that didn't really hit me, but if you watch it again, you could definitely see that.
yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the next match. We have Hunter Hearst Helmsley accompanied by Sable for the very first time. This is Sable's WWF debut, I think. And the returning, the Ultimate Warrior, a 400-pounder. Remember, Jerry King Lawler was like, oh, the Ultimate Warrior is a 400-pounder. I mean, Warrior basically just squashes Triple H in about maybe a minute or whatever it was.
Awesome.
Triple H hits Ultimate Warrior with the pedigree. Ultimate Warrior no-sells it and just gets up. It's just, I mean, if you're a Triple H fan, you probably hate this match. If you hate Triple H, you'll love this match.
If you hate Triple H, you want to see this happen to him now.
Yeah.
Like every Raw, Ultimate Warrior comes down and beats
All right.
Triple H.
So we know it's a squash match, but let's talk about like the stuff that we heard about this match. I know Triple H. Ultimate Warrior will talk about how Triple H actually wanted to get the match changed because he didn't want to get squashed, and then Warrior kind of yelled at him backstage. So then Triple H was saying that Warrior was a dick because he yelled at him and he just ruined the whole experience for him. But bottom line is, if Triple H tried to, kind of politic his way out of getting squashed, then was Ultimate Warrior justified for yelling at him or acting like a dick to him?
I don't know if Hunter that was really his place at that time. I mean, I got respect for what Triple H eventually went on to go do, but this was pretty awesome to see at the time for Ultimate Warrior to come back. It was pretty cool. Should it have been a squash match?
Probably
well,
not.
You know what?
Yeah.
There were 2 other guys that night who had to have an hour-long match, so somebody had to get squashed.
Yeah.
So it looked pretty cool. It was awesome to hear the music, and that's that.
Yeah, it's a shame, because I thought Warrior looked pretty good as far as his conditioning goes. I think he's an underrated wrestler. That's just my opinion, but I don't know. It didn't last very long. I think he stayed until King of the Ring, and then he was out. So this run for Warrior '96 is pretty forgettable. All right, so let's move on to the next match. We have Diesel versus Undertaker. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of this match, to tell you the truth. I mean, it had a pretty dead crowd. It was a nice win for Undertaker. Really put a stamp of approval that Undertaker is pretty much the superior worker to Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you remember about this match?
I give Undertaker credit, and I give Diesel credit at the time. Only at the time, here's the problem with this match. It looks great on paper. It looks great in the ring. It's still, thinking back to it, it looked awesome. Diesel versus Undertaker in WrestleMania. It sounds so cool. But you're putting 2 guys who usually need someone else in there with them to have a really good match. Undertaker often needed a guy like Bret or Shawn. Diesel often needed a guy like Bret or Shawn, or someone they can move around. Now you're putting these 2 trucks against each other, and it's supposed to be great and entertaining, but it was slow, it was drudging, and it kind of dragged you through the mud.
Right. I mean, not one of Undertaker's best matches, but I mean, it was okay for considering Kevin Nash's work rate. It's I would say it's probably one of Kevin Nash's best matches of all time. I would say maybe one of Nash's top 10 matches. Maybe that's kind of I don't know if that's accurate, but I would think so. All right, so let's move on to the next match. We have the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, in my opinion. Still, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Bret Hart actually won the WWF Championship from Diesel back at Survivor Series and has have been the champion since November, defending it against Shawn Michaels. I mean, would you agree this is still the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, right?
Oh, that's how I don't mean to have dead air, folks, but that's such a hard. There's been so many great matches, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho, so many great matches. Many of them had by Shawn Michaels. So many awesome, matches, and I think this one overall, if you take everything that you see within that hour and the overtime. I think you get, the total package match for a WrestleMania match.
All right, okay, so a lot of people say this was slow, it dragged, there was too much dead spots, they were just kind of wasting time in the beginning. Uh, how would you defend that?
I just feel like the way I defend that is that this is the way an Iron Man match should be. This is the way an hour-long match should be. It doesn't have to be, a spot fest. I think that they paced it pretty well for what it was. Even, I think nowadays, I think you get a little faster pace. But, yeah, headlocks, arm drags, bring him to the mat. It was a very technical match. And you got to see both styles. Shawn Michaels kind of more high flyer style, and it sort of meshed them both together. And it was like seeing Rocky beat Apollo Creed in Rocky 2. I mean, it was the ultimate like underdog challenge thing, and I thought it was a great match.
All right. To me, here's why this is such a great match. This is what professional wrestling needs to go back to. There was no bullshit. There was no, fucked up storyline. It was just, babyface versus babyface, the two greatest athletes in the company, the highlight packages, the training packages. They just built up to a great match between both guys. There was no bullshit. Um, you know, they did a beautiful job of talking about how this is Shawn Michaels' boyhood dream. How he wanted to win the championship, and then Bret was he wanted to, at the time Bret wanted to prove that he was the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. But he really couldn't say that if he didn't win this match. So
Yeah.
a lot was at stake for both guys, and but the thing was Bret needed to slow down Shawn Michaels. At the time, Shawn Michaels was the high flyer, the jumping bean. But Bret was supposed to ground him. So the first half of the match made sense. But Bret just applying the headlock, trying to just put a lot of pressure on him, and so all that made sense. And then Shawn Michaels got stronger as the match progressed. And Shawn was just beautiful in this match. I thought he took some vicious bumps, a lot of awesome high flying maneuvers off the top rope. I mean. I just thought tremendous action. It was just a roller coaster of a match, and like the finishing sequence is just extremely well done.
Yeah.
And at the same time, this was kayfabe wise, and in reality, I thought this was a nice foreshadowing for the Montreal Screwjob.
Absolutely, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
It really was, because you watch the way Bret Hart walked out of the ring, and you watch how they even followed him with the camera when he went backstage, and he's got his hands in his head in his hands, and he tells the cameraman, "Get away, get out," and he, just the way he walks away, and even, oh my God, this is
No, he's bending over the ropes in the
Yeah.
same exact position that he spit in Vince McMahon's face. The same. He had the
Yeah.
same look on his face. The same.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just it's scary to think, how similar both of those matches were as far as the way they were as far as the ending. To both matches.
I think the seeds for that Montreal,
No.
that whole situation were planted.
Right.
Maybe not, contractually or financially, but I think as a WWE fan, you have to admit the seeds for that, were planted there. That's without a doubt.
I mean, this is the best match I've ever seen as far as combining storytelling and athleticism. You get an equal amount of those things in this match. So, I mean, it was just a great WrestleMania, and I feel like this is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, still, just for my personal taste. I know a lot of people don't like it. If you didn't watch this match at the time, and if you didn't live the storyline at the time, obviously it's really hard to appreciate it. The same way a lot of the younger kids on here can't really appreciate Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. They think it's just kind of like an average match, but they can't really appreciate the significance of that. The same way a lot of people probably can't appreciate this match. So, all right, that was WrestleMania 12. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right.